I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996 I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've opened Skull and Bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I have duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russell, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another Already Dead. I am Jose Galison, and next to me, the beautiful Austin Picard. What is up, people? And as you guys would notice, we have lied to the people. There is no William Ramsey tonight. I figured we'd start just putting names in here, and just to kind of test out the draw. And but just never really show. But no, I know that I got a message like right before we started or something along the lines of, I guess it wasn't in his calendar. So, I mean, to be fair, I think we just kind of made a verbal thing and said it real quick. So I don't know if we just forgot to put in his calendar. Oh, well, mistakes happen with scheduling. So I don't know. I'm going to hit him up later, see if maybe we can't get him on like next week or something. So it's, no harm, no foul. The great part about this show, the Already Dead show, is it's every Tuesday at 9:30. So it's like, show goes on. Even if me or Austin can't make it, then, we have Jules sit in. So that's just kind of thing. We're going to be here. We're training you like dogs to show up on a Tuesday at 9:30 every week. And you guys come here and you need to start calling in as well. You guys should support me and or Austin. You get that perk where you can come in and video call. So, which, by the way, one of our common video callers just had a kid. So congrats to him if he's out there watching. So we can't count on him to call in, so we need you guys to pick up the slack. So, I just thought it was really cool. He's having a kiddo. He's old too. He's old fucking man. You know what I'm talking about. I forget his name, but because he's just the dude on the old Twitter. But what's up, guys? What's up, Austin? I think you kind of got lost in the sauce this past week. I think you've are now making a documentary on an obscure murder case.
That's what it feels like, man. I'm basically solved the case. I'm very much bogged down in the details, but it's almost finished recording. So, it will be done very, very soon, within the next 24 hours. So, I'm excited about getting at least like kind of putting it behind me in a way. As much as this is my problem, man. My process. I feel like I have to kind of develop this very much dysfunctional relationship with each case that I cover for each episode that I do. And it's only so I can kind of create this like working, comprehensive, functional narrative in my own mind, a constructual, just a really like, what feels more like, I would say, like developing the structure itself for the narrative, right? Because it's very much usually taking that alternative direction as far as the theory is concerned. But for that, at the very least, I'm usually undermining the official narrative at every step of the way, which tends to be my goal. But at the same time, I'm always attempting to be objective, which is the reason that I take a while to kind of workshop my ideas and figure out which direction I'm going to go in, because I kind of like to kind of thread my episodes throughout each other in a way where they kind of like, not necessarily each of them overlap, but many of them do, right, in more ways than one, which is kind of why I think this upcoming TFH appearance is going to be so fun, because we'll get to kind of like lay out that sort of private intelligence network that functions much more like, you know, at an international level, with its influence and how broad its influence truly is. And another reason I was excited to talk to William just for a moment was just to kind of, again, it falls perfectly into that framework, right, that we're consistently discussing. And each of these fraternal organizations kind of achieve different goals and separate benchmarks, and are perhaps even structured differently for that purpose, primarily, right? And I think that goes really unacknowledged in many ways, because of how really, I think that all of these different organizations are kind of the best testament, for the true testament to how power, honestly, how power really functions, right? The true nature of power itself,
Yeah.
And
I've
so
been digging into the Dutroux stuff this past week. I've already on the morning dump, two episodes now. I've went through like these pretty thick threads. Like the first one I went into, I forget the name of the two kids. I know one of the kids, I believe, was Julie. I forget the name. It was Eve, or I don't know. There's the two initial kids.
Effia Lambrix. Yeah,
I think it was like Efja and Julie.
Yeah, no,
were those the first two that went missing?
Because Belgium, it's like French, right? So technically, I looked up all these fucking names, bro, when I did the Beast of Belgium, and just to try and pronounce them correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I say it's whatever. It's just however it's pronounced. But I want to say, I believe it was Julie, and then like that girl. I know there were sequences of different girls, but they're the two ones that really were what like set the fire, the Dutroux affair, and what set it off. And I covered like kind of the ins and outs of that one to thread, and then I also did. So far I did one where we went to the Christine Van Hees murder, which kind of is like the heart of it. And it was like, as I'm like going back through this stuff, I'm like, now it's like, you connect so many different dots when you're going back through it. And also I'm like, now after watching True Detective 2, I'm like, man, the Christine Van Hees murder is like basically kind of the murder at the beginning of True Detective. Like Christine Van Hees,
I haven't
he's
gone
murdered.
into the details of it
It's
yet.
in a mushroom farm, essentially, and they essentially did god-awful things, essentially sadistic. There's nothing that necessarily implies that it was ritualistic, but there were ritualistic components to Dutroux stuff. But essentially, she was savagely murdered there in like a crazy way, and they set the house on fire, and then they got this weird anonymous call and saying, I forget what they even said or what, and then they showed up. But that's literally exactly what basically the beginning of True Detective. There's literally a fire, the fields are on fire, and someone calls. And like I feel like a deeper analysis of the True Detective, like the season 1, like you kind of, I can't remember, I don't remember, I can't give you an example of things to point to, but I feel like it's almost implying it was intentional that someone, set the things on fire, maybe even also put in the anonymous phone call there in that situation too. The idea of like part of the ritual is actually that, like the controlled release of the information to the outside world this happened.
That falls into Brian McDermott and the Anglo-Irish Vice Ring and how they conduct their rituals as well.
Yeah, I swear, I really, I'm looking forward to, I'm going to have someone on sometime soon to do like an analysis of True Detective, and they're kind of someone in line with us. I'm really looking forward to talking to him, because it's like, I really feel like the writer for True Detective had to have been inspired by the Dutroux affair. Like honestly, there's far more parallels between the Dutroux affair and True Detective, in my opinion, than there is in the Hosanna scandal, which is what most people, because I believe that's one of the examples. I don't know where that's sourced from. I've heard people say that's what it's based on partially. But I mean, that one, like that one's just
really
like
the area.
Yeah.
The area. It was driven very much by the area itself, and that the Cajun lattice works that were surrounding the body, but also that falls in with, that sort of occult doctrine that really overlays with you know, I would say,
dude,
what?
you know Nihul's, I don't know if you covered this on your show, Joe. Nihul's ex-wife, Michelle Nihul's ex-wife, was one of the people involved in the Brassics that thing. I forget. It has another name for it. I forget. It was called like Celestial something or else too. Is like some other thing they call it, which makes it sound like some of those like weird new age almost like the Israelians or something, like one of those weird type of cults that are out there, you know, that like they're like kind of alien centered. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously we haven't dug into it, but I know it was kind of a lot of times referred to as a satanic cult. I mean, obviously I don't know the doctrine of this group, but they also have celestial something else. I don't know. It's bizarre, but just the idea that like also there's that tie-in. You're like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? It's so bizarre. And it's happening in like these Nihul parties are happening in fucking like radio stations, which if you think about at the time, this was like in the mid 80s. Yeah, it's reminiscent of the BBC stuff. It's the same idea. I'm kind of thinking that this was like, so I really feel like if you started like investigating major areas, major cities or whatever's radio stations in like the 70s to early 90s, I feel like you could probably uncover in like worldwide a ton of shit. And I was just kind of thinking it through my head, and it's kind of like if you think about Gladio and how that overlaps with the media apparatuses out there and the way media has changed over time, like you think we had that period of time where radio was king. And so I think there's something to like the Dutroux network, what kind of getting blasted out, like what was it, like the mid 90s, something early 2000s, something like that, where kind of radio is fizzling out. Like, I mean, so Nihul's kind of at the coming down from this crest of his power, essentially. You know what I mean? I mean, even then he still didn't get busted for it. But yeah, I know. I've been spiraling.
Oh, I get it, brother. No, man, that's what Dutroux does. That's why I was so much affected by it after I came off the heels of that episode, right? The Beast of Belgium, Michel Nihul, proclaimed himself to the journalist who was coming to get the story, right? As he basically sexually assaulted her and like forced her on his lap. And it's just like he was so confident that he would not be exposed, at the very least, as far as you know, any sort of accountability or justice, right? And that, again, it's what I found so interesting about Dutroux were the paramilitary black sites that were being operated to kind of create this sense of domestic terrorism and really destabilization, right? This environment of destabilization. And you notice that each of these countries that tend to be like directly connected and implicated in these pedophile networks, right, that seem to be very well established, they all are very well represented in these Gladio countries, right? And all these stay behind networks, and they're all functioning out of the United Nations in different areas, right?
A big component of the Dutroux thing is then gendarmerie, which is like a part of why I think this is like so hard for people to understand it, is because this is a foreign concept to us as Americans. Like a gendarmerie, apparently, I guess, you know, from my digging into it more, apparently it's like essentially a military police. And I guess there was actually even what was like a period of time during all this Dutroux stuff where they had police wars, is what they called it, between, because I guess there were like actual, I don't know if you'd call it, well, no, not that necessarily, but it was tied into that. But there was there's two different forms of policing that go on in these countries. Like the gendarmerie is the military police. And then they have another type of police that's like I don't know what they call those, some other type, I don't know, civilian police. So that's kind of weird because technically police aren't civilian, but it's another level. And that's the gendarmerie, the military police, were the ones who were clicked up like crazy because they're essentially, when it comes down to it, I guess they're essentially military. So it's like they operate in a military way. They are directly like, I mean, like police stations or like, police sort of are, but it's a little bit different. This is directly military. Like these are, and they're tied in. Like Belgium was like one of the biggest UN countries, so it is like, or NATO countries. So it was like this is like this. The Gladio went to the extent that it was in the like it's bizarre. There was a dude who was an informant watching Dutroux while all this stuff was going on, and as I'm like learning about like how, you know, infiltrated the gendarmerie is, you're like, holy shit, like I think they more or less had this informant. They may have just had this informant on this guy just to keep tabs on him, not to actually find if they could incriminate him, because it was weird because the informant was coming to them with the information. Like at one point when kids were missing, we're like, I think it could be him. Like, it matches up when he was here and there and this and that. And they're like, okie dokie, cool. And then nothing comes of it. So it's almost as if the purpose of the informant was more because they had an informant on him. Why do you have an informant on him? It's almost more, it's like, oh, just to keep tabs in case he says something. So we know. And so we know anytime he incriminates himself, we're aware. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it kind of feels like. Like, that's what it felt like to me. Like, otherwise, what's the point of, like, assigning a direct informant to them? And I just think the informant probably wasn't in on that because he was kind of like, what the fuck's going on? Like, you have me watching this pedophile and somewhat implicating myself in pedophile stuff to keep an eye on this guy, and you're not doing anything, and it just keeps on going on and on and on. What the fuck is going on here? It's you're like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah. No, man. When you realize what the network was truly functioning as far as Dutroux himself was really just a procurement part of the operation, right? And that's kind of like what I thought about Kagan Klein, the kid that was involved with the Snapchat profile in the Delphi murders. It felt so much like he's just the key piece, one of the key, low level pieces that
do you remember? Do you remember how many people died associated with the Dutroux case too? Like, I think people, because we start talking about the Dutroux thing, people just think you're crazy. I think sometimes you're like, this sounds nuts. But then, like, the more you point out, like, these are things you can look up. There was something like a couple dozen people associated with it.
Oh,
like,
man.
in the Eye of the Chicken Hawk, there's a whole, like, piece in there where they go through each single one. It is nuts. Just dead. And, like, to that point on how the connection to Gladio, like, it's implied, I think they say some of them Dutroux did, but I really wonder the extent to which were some other network, some other group, some other contract killers, and not necessarily Dutroux. Like, I think Dutroux probably did kill sometimes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had people that were just taking out, people to cover the tracks.
I think he was very well versed in the, providing the techniques for the MK Ultra that was happening there in regard to the psychological aspect of controlling these girls or these victims whenever they would be procured. He would then implement the DID, the dissociative identity disorder, and have them effectively falling under a spell where they were legitimately trying to hold on and kiss Dutroux when their protectors, the police, the authorities at the time, well, at least many of the authorities were actually implicated in the network, but still, once it was actually fully exposed and they were attempting to remove these girls, these child victims, from the hidden basement in Dutroux's apartment, or in Dutroux's one of Dutroux's properties, they had this very well constructed hidden basement that you can look at pictures of, and essentially those girls were all both of those girls that were chained up in that area had been willingly cleaning up the area. They were psychologically controlled to such an extent, with Dutroux himself being like, there were mind control manuals, just as they found in David Ferry's apartment whenever they found him dead, right? Which is just like, again, man, it's a part of the playbook when it comes down to it. So I think a lot of these procurement operations, it definitely helps if your asset is well versed in the ability of again, remember, Effie Lambrakes, right, and Ann Marshall, they were hypnotized the night they were abducted, right?
That's what I was about to bring up, because I was like, isn't that a thing that happened? And I was like, I couldn't recall. And I was like, I was waiting for a pause, like a natural pause. But I was like, is that just for some reason I think it was some other case? But yeah, no, that was that one. So that was the wait. So I think each and the other kid were the second girls, because there was like two main girls. Like, if you follow the narrative,
X was the main. X1 was the main girl.
No. They're like what started off. It's kind of hard to follow the timeline, because it's like you have the Christine Van Hees one that like murder that's in the mid '80s, but then you have in the mid '90s, I think it's when some girls go missing, and then later some more girls go missing, and then later the X people start coming out, and they're the ones who have claims about the stuff that happened. I don't believe Regina Loof was one of the people who who
She
was
was
like
X1 in the
yeah, you mean it
dossier.
was X1, yeah, but that wasn't.
Yeah.
My point being is like that wasn't one of the girls who kind of started the uproar and like
No, it
the
was
kind
really
of
the
like
discovery of the bodies
yes.
of Ann Marshall and Effie Lambrix that really set off like the White
Mm.
Flowers March and all that shit that would
But I
Belgium was
think
in
there
an
were two
uproar.
girls before that. I mean, one second. I'll confirm. You keep going. I'm going to double check
Okay.
to make sure because I actually can
Yeah,
read.
I'm almost positive that was the main case that was there were definitely additional bodies that were discovered afterward, but I remember that there was a complete and there was a very much a public outcry for this investigation to take place in regard to, especially when essentially
Julie and Melissa. Sorry, Julie and Melissa were the first two girls to go missing, and then it was Eve and the other girl that I forget. What was the other girl you said the name?
Ann Marshall, Effie
Yeah.
Lambrix. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because it was Julie,
Yeah, yeah.
Melissa, and then those are the ones that end up starving to death,
Yeah,
right?
4 little girls
Yeah.
kidnapped for the sex trade, exhumed from the dungeon prisons that became their tombs. Yep. A child prostitution ring was exposed. So, yeah, it definitely
Because I think if I recall correctly, it was like those two went missing, and then I swear like while they were like supposedly doing surveillance, then like two other girls went missing later or some shit. And you're like, what the fuck?
yeah, it was in
Then he got busted
1995.
for like one or
Yeah.
two of the other kids, but then like they didn't
6
ever
years
find him, and
after the
they were
arrest.
yeah, and then they were like literally in his thing while he was gone, like being arrested. Yeah, it's kind of hard keeping track of all the legal.
Well, I
things.
remember now it was in May of '02 because it was 6 years after the arrest of Dutroux, and then no date was set for his trial. That was also a huge controversy at the time. But in '95, it was when the 2 8-year-old girls were kidnapped, and Dutroux, a convicted sex offender, was the prime suspect from the start. Yet he wasn't arrested for over 14 months. By that time, 4 of his captives, including the 2 girls, were already dead. Since his arrest, 20 potential witnesses connected with the case have died in mysterious circumstances, and that was at the time. When he was arrested, and it was an ongoing investigation. So of course it fueled suspicion of a cover-up, reaching very high levels in the government. And Frankiel, essentially, the author of this article, explains that early on she was told by one senior government advisor, "You must not underestimate the terrible record of our Belgian justice system." So yeah, it definitely it seems to have been what really spurred the outcry at the time. But essentially because apparently when he's arrested, right? Dutroux's wife, Michelle Martin, she was exposed to be a primary school teacher and the mother of his 3 children, and
But
she
was
admitted,
a teacher?
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't
So
know
again,
that. That's
another
fucked
way to
up. Yeah.
right? Doesn't that fit within the Country Walk scandal, the
Yeah.
babysitting service? It's like, oh my
Well, that
god,
reminds me once again, True Detective, like the school. I swear, it was like I really felt like I think that was part of the thing that gripped me the most when I was watching True Detective is all the parallels with like Dutroux stuff. So I'm like, I just yeah, I swear he was. I don't know if maybe he was just like, oh, Hosanna, because that's more tame. I mean, it's obviously they're both awful, but like that's the one that has like not crazy like, hey, look at the strings that control the world angles.
Yeah, there's not as direct,
Yeah.
solid implications and corroborating evidence to like point to a wider network.
Yeah,
Although it feels so much as if there is a wider network involved. It
yes,
is one
it
of
does.
those.
We just don't know
Yeah,
yet. So if anything, that was
exactly.
like the more safe option. Like, oh yeah, Hosanna, because sort of religious-y, sort of Southern Bayou something
Right.
ambiance. Okay, yep, Hosanna scandal. And we're like, no, like this is all fucking like generational, deep politics, like, and there's so many parallels. It's nuts.
Oh my
Someone's
god.
go ahead.
It was Julie Lujan and Melissa Russo. Those were the original 8-year-old girls, right, from the '95 case when he was arrested. I didn't mean to. I just remembered their names.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. The
yeah.
Julie and Melissa. I mean, maybe they
Mhm.
had different. Maybe it was spelled differently or
Buried
something.
in yeah.
Yeah.
Julie Lujan, it's like it's a French Belgian name, obviously, but they were buried in the garden of one of Dutroux's properties. But yeah, Michel Lilievre, he was a drug addict, petty thief. He told police that after he was arrested, that the girls had been kidnapped to order for someone else. So it fit perfectly, especially when Michelle Nehul had a nightclub nearby. He was always at this nightclub nearby, and that was apparently where those girls had been spotted before they were abducted and hypnotized that night, right? Which is very strange, but it goes to show that, they were sort of like, I think they were using the DID techniques, the mind control techniques on these kids, especially with Dutroux's capability of kind of implementing the dissociative identity disorder. I think he was basically programming them to behave in whichever way that they were ordered to behave, which is very strange to put it in those terms. But that is legitimately why I think where you have X1, Regina Louf, she's explaining how you have all of these alters that have been constructed in order to kind of compartmentalize this dissociative disorder, right? And it was very strange how when she would leave the house, and she was one who would help procure other girls, right? And I mean, that's just like when you're turned out by your own family. I think it was her grandma, and utilize your own child after abusing them and creating this DID personality, to then utilize them as and leverage them to procure other children. It fits the Franklin scandal, man. It is legitimately what they did, right, with Paul Bonacci, and that's why Bonacci was like, man, every single interview that I watched with him, it broke my damn heart, man. Like that's a kid that's been just ultimately destroyed from within, and it's like he's really better off than I ever would have imagined, honestly, especially considering what he was forced to witness and having to, I mean, he was explaining stories of just like, feeling as if he had no other choice but to like convince one of the victims that they would be okay, but after going through just just agree and do what they expect of you. But in reality, they were legitimately they were picking up in private planes. They were picking up, they were going all over the place. They went from Nebraska to Colorado to San Francisco, and they were picking up like I think in Denver when they landed there. It was actually a director who was going to direct one of the snuff films for one of the victims that was procured by Bonacci himself. And then Bonacci later said that Gunderson, I just saw, I think Ted Gunderson, some type of op, to be honest. Hey, brother, I get it, man. Everybody thinks that. There's a whole chapter devoted to Ted Gunderson in my new upcoming episode on the Fort Bragg murders that I hope everyone enjoys, because I legitimately, it's one of the most...
Did you spend 20 minutes explaining the possible Fed shit?
Minute.
You spent hey, I just want to qualify this information that you may or may not be a Fed still.
Honestly, I allowed Jeffrey Potter, the co-author of Fatal Justice, to actually kind of provide us with his account of how he assessed the credibility of Gunderson at the time. It's so strange, man, because he was in the midst of investigating this satanic ritual abuse network that was discovered and outed in Seattle at the time. And Gunderson reaches out to him and has a conversation with him at this Chinese restaurant, just arranges a meeting to discuss the Jeffrey McDonald murder case. And he was given this tip by his publisher, who told him, hey, Gunderson just reached out and he said he read your latest piece. He wants to have a conversation with you. And he goes, it's about black witchcraft. And he goes, fuck. He's like, I'll let Gunderson tell you. And then Jeffrey Potter goes, apparently his publisher told him that with a smile, and he's like, great, more witchcraft. I wasn't smiling. And it's like one of the really the greatest accounts of him like meeting Gunderson at this restaurant, assessing his his original assessment of Gunderson's claims, and then him being convinced by Gunderson to ultimately meet him at his LA office. And as he goes into the office, Gunderson's not there yet, and then he's surprised by him, and they have this conversation. And he's clearly Jeffrey Potter, the co-author who's investigating this Jeffrey McDonald murder case from 1970. It was actually less than 6 months after the Manson murders took place, the Tate and LaBianca murders. But still, they're kind of having this, they're sparring back and forth to kind of try and reveal each other's character. It's very interesting, but it was something that I felt like was very important to you know, at least acknowledge and put out there a little more, because I see so many people who, of course, I myself question Gunderson's credibility, but
Yeah, but
this is
what do
kind of
we
like,
even really have? Like, I'm
yeah,
trying to think of off the top of my head what really there is to back up any sort of Fed jacketing of Gunderson. Like, I
there's
mean,
nothing that I
aside from
can
him
point to
prior
directly.
being a Fed, and then
You know,
I
that's
think a
it.
lot of times people point to some of the crazy shit he would say. But as I've said in
I
the
think he
past,
fucked
like
one of the
you
McMartin
go,
moms too.
yeah, you go look back at some of the videos or some of the things. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I haven't like paid attention to all of his work or really dug into
Yeah.
enough of his work to really have a full picture. But
I haven't
uh
found one thing so far
yeah,
that has been a smoking gun
I
red,
just
for me.
my point being is that my impression is it seems like most people's like reasoning is just that like yeah he's in a
Yeah,
bunch of high
he's
profile
involved,
cases and like
trying to undermine the official narrative.
yeah
I mean,
which
right,
and
with
then
evidence, though.
so the idea that he shows up to a lot of big ones and that he does sometimes a lot of people thought that the was it shit coat is the term when you like you come
Yeah,
crazy and like it's
sort of
the
the Bill
idea like
Cooper.
the old reputable conspiracy types or parapolitical types. It's like oh you come off crazy when you start talking about sexual ritual abuse
Yeah,
and this and that. So there was a lot of people
watch
like
all
that
his
saying
videos,
that like
man.
you're shit coating it by bringing in all these elements. But it's
See,
like if
you
you
know how
were a
much
Ted
time.
Gunderson type and you have gotten that connected into where you're like, say you have seen examples of this and it is legit, I could totally see where you'd be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm not cool with this. I don't
Oh
know.
man,
You know what I mean?
I do the best I can providing this sort of objective assessment of Gunderson's, credibility in this episode, because I think it's primarily it's just it's very important though, because again, like if you remember, man, when we did the Finders episode, it was Ted Gunderson who described the Finders as a CIA front established in the
Yeah.
1960s. Members are specially trained government kidnappers with top clearance and protection, and their
Yeah,
assigned
that's
task
legit.
of stealing
Yeah.
children,
Which
torturing and sexually abusing them, sometimes involving them in satanic orgies, bloody rituals, and murder of other children with the slaughter of animals. He's the one who interviewed Paul Bonacci that I used that interview in the Franklin episode. I haven't found one thing. I just watched Helena Stokely give him an interview in 1982. The
yeah.
audio quality is so fucking
I mean, and
terrible that I
we
can't put
all
it into this episode,
me and
but
you are
still,
both very jaded, but it's like
yeah.
I think to some extent. I mean, and I don't know. Maybe I could be swayed on this. I still wouldn't be surprised. But it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it really that crazy that there are white hats? And like in this example, he's not even the typical example of a white hat people usually speak of when they talk about white hats. Because usually when people are like, "Ooh, white hats," they're like speaking about actual feds in the Fed. Like, oh, there's people in the halls of power that have it for us. But no, like Gunderson at the time wasn't like he had left supposedly. Obviously, the idea a lot of people was like, just kidding. No, he wasn't out. But like theoretically, he was out. So it wasn't even like
No, he had
he was
retired.
like the typical white hat. He wasn't part of
Yeah.
the system technically at that point. And is it
Yeah.
really that crazy that someone could end up in the system? I mean, I wasn't a Fed like that, but I was a military. I was part of the system and
Yeah.
I just got disillusioned with it. Is it really that crazy someone could do the same thing in the FBI and go, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I'm starting to unveil stuff, truths about, related to my job that,
Yeah.
I don't know, like
It's legit, has
I
to
thought
be.
this FBI thing was something that's not,
Right, right.
you know?
It legitimately has to be just the mere fact that he's a former Fed, right? Because that's like
Yeah, and
the
I get it.
key.
I get
Yeah, yeah. And
it.
so that's the primary concern. And again, I'm not saying trust everything Gunderson has ever said. Assess the credibility for yourself in each circumstance. And I think that is what I've attempted to do each time Gunderson ever comes across my radar within any of these cases. And each time I have not found a reason to doubt, due to the fact that he's provided overwhelming evidence. And that's another key part of this Jeffrey McDonald case, is that he had boxes of evidence that he had accumulated from the FBI field office, right? And he was apparently retired. And again, he's taking the alternative narrative that is 100% undermining the official account from the feds themselves, so from his former outfit. Now, this could be just a mere psychological operation tactic if people are trying to point to something, some sort of disinformation operation. I could understand that being, as far as just someone's perspective around Ted. But I also think that he was compelled throughout certain investigations that proved out to as far as he was concerned, proved the fact that these very well established satanic organizations existed that were practicing these, actual blood sacrifices, animal sacrifices, whatever the case may be. You can point to, again, I always bring up the Process Church, but it's because of the David Berkowitz connection there, proving out the fact that there was a group, right, that was behind Berkowitz, and they were operating under very different motivations, that he was kind of smeared with these false motives, when in reality, there's very much, I believe, the reason that Maury Terry named his book The Ultimate Sacrifice was because of the occult nature of those killings. And again, you can tie that network in from New York to San Francisco. All right. Like it's one of the most vast international networks, right? Because it's been represented in Mexico and everywhere. It was created in the UK effectively. But anyway, the point being is that when I watched the interrogations themselves, right, the interviews that he has with these witnesses and that the only time that I've ever heard, the only real, I would say, like, way that they target Ted's credibility is typically that they say he's planting these ideas in the witnesses' minds, right? So he's convincing them through just the art of conversation that somehow they should run with the false narrative of satanic ritual or whatever the case is. And that's usually what people try and claim, is that, for example,
real quick, we have Dystopia saying if Gunderson was talking the real narrative, he would have been dropped like Gary Webb. I completely disagree. You can be talking the real narrative.
He was killed.
And you know what? You know what you could do instead? There's different strokes for different folks. With someone like Gunderson, wouldn't it just make sense to Fed jacket him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You completely leave him alone. And you're like, why? If anything, you could almost be like, why, just how we mentioned earlier, why is it he's always there? Why is he always the one getting the scoop? And I'm not saying they would actively, do stuff for him, but they probably just won't get in his way. Like, they just don't jam up. Like, why is it that he never has any problems whatsoever? It's because they're like, hey, because it's like they want that. That is a thing. There's been multiple occasions I've read, and like parapolitical things I've read, where it's like literal examples of that happening, where for whatever reason they will purposely let one person of a group completely off and have no legal trouble whatsoever. That way the group is like, why are you here? Like, I thought the whole group just got picked up. Like shit like that. So I mean, I get it. And once again, as you mentioned, and then Dystopias is not saying all this info is false, but definitely have to keep your head on a swivel. That too. Absolutely. You should also be aware of the possibility if you see somebody like I just talked to my buddy Clint Russell the other day, and we were talking about Mike Benz. And like kind of the idea that we don't really know. And I've talked about on the show that maybe he could be. And like his grandpa was like worked for James Jesus Angleton, and he did used to work for the State Department. So it's like, is this guy still a Fed? I don't fucking know. He says basically all the shit that we like and is pretty much on it. So it's like, okay, maybe he is, but it's like, I don't know. He's saying the right shit, and we don't really fucking know. So yeah, you just kind of got to keep your head on a swivel, and that's really. But you should be aware. I mean, I think it is useful to be aware of that stuff. That way, you can have the right amount of skepticism when you're hearing their stuff. Like, obviously, I don't think you should take anyone's word and just buy it immediately. But like, you definitely should like have levels of trust when you hear something. Like you should be able to be like, oh yeah, I need to filter that through like, you might be a Fed, that filter in my head, You
have to corroborate it for yourself.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's what I attempt to do at every step of the way. Right. And that's why anytime I'm grappling with any information that's being provided by Gunderson, I always go through the corroborating process in order to try and provide the evidence necessary to kind of not only convince myself, but if I'm providing it in any sort of context of an episode, then obviously, I'm desperate to make sure that anything that I'm putting forward, either I'm, being very careful with my approach and explaining to everyone that, hey, this is who it's coming from. And, here are the at least the main red flags that you should consider beforehand before you even know. But still, going back and corroborating the things, the evidence myself that Ted was putting forward in regard to these various cases, especially the Finders, Franklin, and Fort Bragg murders, right? Then the Jeffrey McDonald case. It's been proven out in the evidentiary details that are provided within the court documents, like legitimately. And so I'm reading through, I'm taking, you wonder why my process takes so long. It's legitimately because I'm reading either the books that I feel like are the most crucial to understand the conceptual outline of the case, or I'm also, reading the court documents, which I feel like are fundamental to understanding any one of these criminal cases, especially a 50-year murder case with all the appeals processes involved. And originally it was an Article 32 military hearing to begin with. So, you have prosecutors who went from the military into private practice and made their careers on Jeffrey McDonald's name. And people don't fucking understand that there are so many different aspects that you have to, just factors involved in these cases to really, again, construct this fundamental understanding for yourself before you make any sort of statement speaking in certain terms of any kind. You have to be careful. You have to be skeptical. You have to remain objective. But again, I wouldn't be sitting here defending the name of Gunderson. I'm still not defending anyone personally. Honestly, I don't know the fucking guy. But I do. I will say that each and every time that I've discovered his research within the context of one of these investigations, I have yet to feel as if the information he's putting forward is uncredible. So
yeah. I think that's a good spot for us to transition over to the next phase of the show, the call-in portion. I figured we would for like these episodes where we don't have guests, that we would kind of maybe like spend the first half kind of talking current events. We'd watch the weekly dump and kind of like riff off that. But we went completely ass backwards, and I think that maybe that might even work better. So, but with that, I do want to, as we transition over to the call-in portion of the show, I do want to remind you guys that this episode was brought to you by our friends over at NWJ Shave Co. If you try that razor burn irritation, those ingrown hairs caused by those multi-blade cartridges, this is the way to go. Whether you're shaving your whole face or edging up your beard, the single blades give you a barber-grade shave for a fraction of the price. A standard issue with the one traditional safety razor and a box of 100 stainless steel razor blades puts you out about $75. That's supposed to last you a whole year. It really depends on how frequently you shave. If you're shaving on a daily, it's not going to cut it for you. You're going to want to consider the Quarter Shave Club. Puts you out about 25 cents per replacement blade. Now, to recap real quick, this is also a COVID mandate refusing company. So to recap, this is a superior product. This is a better shave. This is better for your skin. It's a cheaper product, and it's from a company that doesn't hate your guts. And last but not least, you can get 10% off your entire order if you use Jose at checkout. With that, let's go ahead and dial up this weekly dump. So big old thanks to Jolly on Klebold for creating these for us. And let's watch this. This is just kind of a super cut of this past week of morning dumps. Once we get Austin out of making his documentaries, we can get him in on some of these. I think he made it into one of these. I think you got into one this week.
Nice.
So, but go ahead and play it, Jules. So he just went to some weird senior center days before, and I guess it sounds like he was a regular for some reason. So it's just more of an example of what a bizarre guy this was. Which, this goes into, I guess, the death of his little boy toy, bail or something, and then somehow he skipped, and then they're like, oh, did something to make it look like some sort of accident? Or no, he just that doesn't make sense to me. How that would even be possible. Oh man, someone needs to dig into that. He's faked his death like multiple times. You can even see the photo. All right, where was that? Okay, we did. Sorry, I'm all fucked up all of a sudden. So all right, can't corner the donor until they finally did.
Oh, that's a crazy
real
story.
Honest with you right now. This moment came to me in a dream about a month ago.
It's funny. I just thought it's funny. Elon Musk dad saying Michelle Obama has a penis. Shane
Oh,
saying
yeah,
DOJ is
that was
essentially
funny.
arguing FBI discretion to let Epstein operate with impunity.
Why he would do something? No clue
Hey,
whatsoever.
Bruce Paddock, man.
President Xi of China, President Putin of Russia, and I want to say let's cut our military budget in half.
This is a boy to girl, and if so, I'll give them some props. I totally saw this photo going around. Thought Got it was that just totally a chick, back so, backwards. Good job pulling it off. I
She was
guess.
15 3 years ago.
Yeah.
She was hit by a bus.
Oh yeah.
There's a very strong sexual element to it.
I'm also a survivor of child sex trafficking.
No, like just what nationality? Just take a guess.
English?
I don't know. Like here, like this, like forlorn look when it's like the story is, hey, Elon Musk came and me. Like it comes off. I'm sorry. It's probably knew too much. His wife said she believes he has dirty secrets on his clients, and that he realized at some point he was involved in the destruction of the vehicle used to kidnap Julie and Melissa. That made him dangerous in the eyes of Dutroux and his friends.
So do you think there was an intelligence connection to all of this?
Do you see this video?
Friedman, yeah.
Is a U.S.-based global food giant that has been trying to increase its worldwide business in the biotech food industry. It's donated between $1 and $5 million to the Clinton Foundation.
How do you bear to live with what you already know? You can't say.
All right, that's that. Yeah, that's a past week. That was yeah. We had a weird week. The Zizians got arrested. I don't know if you that was today. The Zizians, at least the Zajko and Ziz, the main guy, both got busted today. So with Zajko is the one who like he's got his fucking essentially his family murdered by the cult. So wild shit. Crazy week. I don't know any thoughts on this past week, Austin. I don't know. Every week's kind of crazy today. It's hard to keep track of the day to day. Man, I like think back 2 weeks ago, and it's like it was like months ago.
Right, dude. Honestly, man, like it seems. First of all, I wanted to address the fact that the Iran narrative is kind of taking off in certain ways, which I find interesting, especially considering the conversations we've had surrounding that sort of foreign policy agenda at play, which very much tends to fall within the framework of, I think, Israel's long-term interests, right? Which of course we already know that one thing we can rely on Trump to be is the ultimate Israeli candidate, right, for the Zionist policies, honestly. And that's what I'm most concerned of is that you see Smotrich coming out and claiming that Trump's ethnic cleansing plan for Gaza will start within weeks, right? And
got a call coming in. You keep going.
Oh yeah, no, you're good, brother. But yeah, it's Israeli finance minister Bezalel Smotrich. I don't know how to say his first name, honestly. But he claims a plan to forcibly displace Palestinians from Gaza in line with President Trump's Gaza plan, right, which is really Kushner's plan, for the territory would begin in the coming weeks. And again, it's like when you understand the real estate aspect of the rebuild, right, and the redevelopment program that's involved with Gaza 2035 and Netanyahu's vision for Gaza 2035, which I've discussed multiple times, which falls perfectly in place with, of course, the World Economic Forum's Operation Lockstep, Great Reset, and whatever else you want to call it, the report from Iron Mountain. I mean, in every way, we're seeing that take place effectively, and I think that the concern is that the infrastructure is being built and implemented and really set in place for this kind of permanent pivot to take place, and there will not be any single administration that will be, I think, ultimately blamed for this pivot that is truly just manufactured and in my mind, something that's been very much in the cards as far as we have our call.
Yeah, we're ready. I was just waiting for you.
Man, I'm just running my fucking mouth, dude. Go ahead, brother.
You're good. Hey, go ahead. You're on Already Dead with Austin and Jose. Keep in mind, the Austin and the audience and myself can hear you but I can talk to you. They can't talk back to you, so you can't hear them. So,
All right, bet.
But go ahead, man. What's up? How you doing?
All right, so I'm good. I'm actually Dystopia in the chat. So
hell yeah.
I had a
What
few
up, dog?
questions about. I think on 10-4 you guys were talking about PizzaGate, and the whole PizzaGate thing, man. To me, it just reeks of naval intelligence with the whole Jack Posobiec cut in, and then you have Michael Aquino, naval intelligence, Steve Bannon, naval intelligence. Those cats, they like to crawl around that. I was just thinking of a disinfo op, really. I mean, not that it's not real, but was it as extreme as they said it was?
Interesting. Well, first of all,
maybe it was the white hats.
I get what you're saying as far as
that whole.
You can't hear you, Austin.
It was just.
I know, my bad.
It was a weird time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a weird time. Well, all right. I mean, I guess there's actually some shit Austin wanted to talk about PizzaGate that we kind of kept forgetting to bring up. So that was kind of a perfect little caveat. So do you have any anything else to add to that before we let you go? Because that's kind of a good question for us to jump off of, anyways.
Yeah. Other than what was the Hawktua's brother? Was that him or not?
Wait, what? Hawktua's brother?
No, remember on TFH when I brought
that got dropped in North Carolina. That
Edgar
shot
Madison
up
Welch.
the pizza joint.
Yeah,
Hawktua's brother.
That was is that legit? Her brother?
Brother, I brought it up
nobody,
on TFH.
I can't vet it or anything. But
wait, I don't know. Who? Okay, all right. Well, we'll have to let you go. I'm gonna get Austin to clear that up because I'm like, I don't remember this, but like apparently he said it right next to me on tinfoil hats.
Yeah, 100%, bro. What the fuck?
All right, bye.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in. Call in again sometime.
Later.
All right. All right. We'll see.
All right, see you, dude.
Bye.
That's so fucking funny.
That was fun. So what? Okay, so give me that detail again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to juggle three different things. So maybe it's one of those things that once you say it again, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that.
It was when we're on TFH, I brought up the fact that it's definitely been out there as a theory that Edgar Madison Welch is actually Haley Welch, Hawktua girl's brother, potentially.
I didn't remember you bringing that up on the show, but I feel like I've heard that before. But we don't know that for sure though. That's just the name.
No, remember I threw it out there as like I haven't yet confirmed this for myself, but this sounds amazing, and I should throw it out there anyway because we're on tinfoil hat. But
so let's just go ahead and disinfo it up.
Hey, man, it's the nature of the business. No, but I swear, like,
fuck it, who cares? It's what the people want. Take that to the bank. Hawktua's brother's the fucking PizzaGate. Fuck.
Hey, man, I justified it. All right, I justified it beforehand. I said I haven't confirmed this, but I want to believe it. And if you remember, even Johnny was like. He put a term he put a term on it. I forget what it was, but he said basically there's a term for it in the media where it's too good to confirm, basically. So just fucking run with the story. and I thought that was hilarious, but yeah, still,
you know what, I remember this now too, and I think there was some periods it was late for me, so there was periods where my eyes just kind of glaze over and just kind of like, oh. So come on, get it together, dude. So yeah, I was losing it a couple times. But yeah, funny. PizzaGate. There were some things you wanted to touch on that. So I'm glad the caller brought that up. So now we have a reason to go back to it. So,
right.
Yeah.
I understand what they're saying as well, because as far as like the naval intelligence connection, because you trace that back. I mean, shit, man.
Because Posobiec was huge in the pizza, because that was kind of how he came known. It's like he's the bad boy that came out with this PizzaGate info, and look at him with all the crazy, like completely not in the establishment. But then he also was kind of like, I mean, he was Navy intel. But I mean, I remember I looked into it a little bit. Forever, because I mean, once again, every one of these people that like all these people say, oh, this person's a Fed, this person's Fed. They're all people. It's not like people I follow their content regularly, so that I go check them out and to kind of like see information. And the biggest thing with like with Posobiec is I found that like assuming his military records are correct, I believe he was only like an 03 or some shit, or maybe even an 04, and he. Maybe even 03, and he had done like something like 8 years or some shit, which is not a very good promotion, turnaround. So it's like, I don't know. I think he was just like, the impression I get is he was, intel, but like, that doesn't mean shit. Like, I mean, there's people in the military who are intel, and they do one enlistment and they get out. Like, and like, I don't know. I mean, I just like, I feel like if he was a super spy, he probably would have at least made rank quicker. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It just did nothing about like his record made me be like, this dude's clearly fucking, because it kind of looked like he did like maybe one enlistment and then got out. So I don't know. I mean, could he be fucking a glowy? Sure, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised whatsoever if he was. But like, it's also like, I don't know. He also could just been a fucking dude who joined the military and then got the fuck out. Because people do get in the military and they get put in intel. So I don't know. It's like, you know, it happens.
But I will say the Office of Naval Intelligence for sure was you know, I think Woodward,
the OG
himself.
glowy op.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And Woodward was a member of that, right? And that was his direct connection to Alexander Haig. Basically, was he was. But again, it's like I'm not relying on.
Good night, DWS. Go ahead.
I'm not relying on him to kind of assess PizzaGate as a credible line of investigation, especially considering all the evidence that I've discovered over the course of researching PizzaGate. It certainly didn't, kind of as far as hinge on his reporting whatsoever, right? But it was like, definitely the public was introduced to it much more through him, but still, that was people who, in my mind, weren't quite tapped into the alternative media at the time, right? So they're kind of like consuming this. But well, again, you look at, again, I would say, like, pointing out Sean Ryan and Sarah Adams and all of these different individuals that very much seem like they're kind of manufactured personalities to oversaturate
they seem
the
authentic to me.
landscape. Yeah. And of course they
completely
were doing
organic.
that. Right. But of course there was a policy in place of kind of pursuing that in a way to deceive the public. So of course that is the approach in more ways than one. So we always have to remain skeptical. So again, when I'm sitting here spending all this time defending Gunderson, it's legitimately defending the information I've believed that Gunderson has put forward, whether it was Gunderson personally or the information itself. That's what people are misinterpreting, I think, because I've attempted to assess the credibility alone. But so away from the personality, right? And that's what I think that people, that has to be a part of your process, or you are running this huge risk and you're vulnerable and naive at a certain point. But let me show you this, because of course this is a Distractify. So again, this is some unreliable source. Its approach is to mislabel, in my mind, to kind of create this misconception, to of course conflate QAnon with this theory that is surfaced. Which, hey man, it's possible as far as
QAnon's been batting pretty damn good as of late.
Yeah. People think that Steve Bannon was potentially just a part of kind of cultivating and manufacturing Trump's original, at least a part of Trump's original approach to the public to try and increase like the support among voters who were very underrepresented. And so I felt as if this is how it was put forward to me, and what I had read was that Steve Bannon is potentially behind QAnon, right? Which is interesting, because especially he had just mentioned Office of Naval Intelligence, because essentially to effectively use it as a psychological operation.
Sorry, just to slow you down a little bit. It's been a long time since I've even thought about Cambridge Analytica stuff, but wasn't Steve Bannon highly tied into the Cambridge Analytica stuff? That was like supposedly part of the 2016 Trump campaign that like supposedly used. And I don't know there's debates about to what degree it actually was significant, but that was, if I remember correctly, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but that was used by the Trump administration, and that was a tool used to help in campaigning, essentially. Yeah, exactly. And then they tried to say that there was some sort of behind election interference or some bullshit. But it is like my kind of point that I'm getting at that is like that's some like kind of glowy as shit. But I guess you could also say that's like a campaign manager stuff. But I'm just saying that sounds a lot like I don't know what you were just saying before that. But go ahead.
Well, how else draw in the alternative as far as like the conspiracy theorists, right? As far as just the individuals who are very much feeling underrepresented, and disenfranchised. How do you draw them back into the establishment? And I think that they had essentially had tapped in an individual who could devise this sort of approach that would be very, very attractive to people among that group, right? And so I think that what QAnon could potentially have been is a psychological operation within the context of the mind war in regard to the campaigning aspect of
Man.
what's that?
I'm just thinking about it. I'm sorry. I was thinking out loud.
No,
Because
you're
you're saying
good.
that, I'm like, if you include that into the PizzaGate thing, then the PizzaGate thing can be completely authentic. But keep in mind, these people are also Trump's enemies. And I'm not saying it's necessarily entirely a Trump thing, but I'm like, if you were to try to tie this into, because the theory that we're kind of playing with for fun is the Navy intelligence angle.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, Pizzagate may not be necessarily real or fake. Let's say there's some sort of Navy intel op to try to usher in Trump into the whatever 2016 and then future into 2024. Is it really that crazy that, let's say, Pizzagate to some degree or another is real? Obviously, that's their political enemies. Let's be real. This is like a rot that's in politics, and maybe they just understood that, like, hey, we're at a time where like this will get exposed. Because like this stuff is like, I mean, whether like this stuff is controlled, yeah. So this stuff's going to so it's kind of like
exposed,
yeah. So it's like whatever, we'll expose it, and whatever it works out, it kind of like kind of shuffles off my political enemies elsewhere. Because it's like and yeah, this is it would explain kind of why there'd be so much upset among the elites. Is like, oh, this is a guy who intentionally popped that bubble, and fucked us over there, and so now then you have. A controlled release from, say, like a Pasobic with the Navy intel ties. Obviously, it's all speculation. And then you have the Stephen Bannon, and then there's like the QAnon sort of. So it's almost like it naturally narratively flows into like, okay, cool. Like now we have this, the narrative's been popped, Pizzagate's out there, and now we're at a period in time where the narratively speaking, like most people, unless you're really dialed in, like you're like, this sounds fucking insane. This sounds like crazy. QAnon shit, but then there's a lot of people who were actually tapped in and were like, oh, this is real. Now you take that QAnon, that takes some of the tapped in people and diverts them, and then also kind of sucks off some of the boomers into like their own little. So it's like, I don't know, there's so much like op there, but at the same time, even then, it's like, I don't know, man. Fucking, I just was looking at I just bookmarked, I think like a couple hours ago for tomorrow's show. They're getting ready to lay off, I guess, a bunch of IRS workers, and you're like, dude, what the fuck? Like, so from like even from a Q perspective, it's like, man, now what is this? Where does this go? I mean, is there some pivot somewhere? I don't know. I still am still very skeptical. But anyways, my point being is I got sidetracked. But anyway, I'm just kind of like in my head, I'm picturing this like if we're obviously I'm not saying that is the case, but it's a fun theory to throw around. You're like, okay, if this was all a Navy intel op and we're gonna run this into, you can thread this into Pizzagate, into QAnon, Cambridge Analytica, like at
the very least, it would be a wonderful tool to discredit certain lines of interest in the public mind, in the public consciousness, including Pizzagate. So even if you just, manufacture QAnon as some sort of psychological operation tactic and then leverage it and exploit it in the public consciousness, that is clearly what
Pizzagate's just some QAnon bullshit.
Exactly, man. Yeah, that's where my mind goes, because it's sort of like a limited hangout, right? The controlled disclosure to the public, right? Which is what they tend to do more often than not, especially you go all the way back to even the Warren Commission report, and when the term conspiracy theorist was manufactured in the first place by the CIA to discredit anyone who was questioning the Warren Commission. And I will always be under the impression you must remain skeptical at all times, but yeah, Pizzagate is no, there's no way that it's Q bullshit. Be careful, brother, honestly, especially considering Farmer L. All right, if you want any sort of real information.
All right, real quick, Austin, to
exists.
back you up and to redivert you, because the Austin train goes off the tracks all the time. So let's
Dude,
redivert. What? Because I remember I forget the specific details, and maybe you don't recall right now, but there was
New
something you wanted to
Wayfair?
talk about Pizzagate recently.
Yeah.
So
Etsy, the new Wayfair. That's
okay.
that's how you
is
that's
that
how
what
you
it was? The Pizzagate thing? Okay,
100%.
there you go.
Yeah, fucking A.
All right, cook, baby, cook.
People don't understand that Wayfair scandal that took place. They were human trafficking. That was what was happening. There was
That shit was
clearly
wild.
yes, and members of the
Do you remember
board.
that? Okay, I guess
Yeah.
I'm kind of like saying that to the audience. You guys remember that? Like they were legit. Like you could be like Susie, the fucking
Yeah.
Susie, fucking lazy Susan, fucking Applebee's or whatever. And then be like, oh, there's a little girl and her name's Susan Appleby. And you're like, dude, what the fuck? What was going? Like I feel like somehow people figured out ways. They're like, oh, if you go to this place and then go to that place, then somehow you get that. And I don't know what degree. Maybe that was completely bullshit because it was like by the time I looked into it, it was like I couldn't replicate it. And it's also like you don't really replicate it. Yeah, see, $50K for a cabinet. Somebody's saying. Oh, sorry. Did you try to bring something? Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
What's up with that? Well, so Etsy, why are you selling low in stock, only one left for $4,000, a picture of a young child with wings, and then you have down here another young girl for $4,000, only one left, low in stock
with a pizza,
instant
fucking
download pizza. Yeah, brother. What about this one? $4,000, low in stock, only one left.
This is
right.
fucking
Yeah,
awful.
$50,000 for a cabinet. That was Wayfair. That was what they were doing. So this is what people need to understand, that this is how you traffic human beings online digitally. And apparently it's up to conspiracy theorists and QAnon supporters to notice the pattern recognition involved. But
and we know this is. Have you like checked this out elsewhere other than Distractify? Because
no, 100%. Yeah,
so this is legit.
These are not manufactured images. They were discovered on Etsy, and
Is
they
there
had
some what's the explanation they give? Like, was even an attempted explanation from anyone?
The explanation is legitimately that
Oops.
first of all,
They fucked up the listing.
Yeah, exactly. That this is an accidental misprice, right? That's been apparently, then conspiracy theorists.
Although, I mean, on that though too, if you were to, I mean, to be fair, I'm not like as super familiar with the market, but I feel like especially if you were to be doing it online. There would probably be weird ways it would take. You would probably not be able to just easily get to this. You'd probably have to go some roundabout ways to get to these listings, and then also the prices did not comport to what I would think, because I don't know, what did we sell? One of them was $3,000.
But you remember the connection on Wayfair. They would connect it to. It wasn't only the price of the cabinets, let's say, right? The $50,000 for a cabinet. I don't remember the numbers specifically offhand, but I do recall that it was the name of the cabinet or the cupboard or whatever that they were selling, because they were all different, appliances or pieces of furniture, and it would be the name of a newly abducted missing person in a specific area. And the areas were then tracked to exactly where it was like, look, man.
But what I'm saying with this one though is they're like, we saw ones where 3 and 4. I just feel like, far be it for me to have like my finger on the pulse with the market of child trafficking, but I really feel like you would probably, like, I don't know, to buy a kid online. What you got to be at least $5K, right? Like, come on.
You would think.
You would think. I mean, we were seeing 3 and 4K here. Like, that's just insane. Like, really, someone out there is really risking their entire fucking life to sling some kid on fucking Etsy for 3K. Like, I don't know. That seems a little wild. You'd think it'd be a higher price. I don't know. That just seems wild to me.
Store.
Yeah, 3,000. Yeah, I mean, what the fuck is? That's such a low price. It's insane.
It's nuts.
Like, I mean, guys, premium deals on Etsy. That's a joke. Don't do that.
Yeah, for real. But when you, I'm just saying, man, like, it was deemed the new Wayfair, obviously, because anyone who followed PizzaGate it kind of just naturally crosses your radar, I think, but clearance sale, Jesus.
Buy now or I shoot it in the head.
That's so fucked up.
Everything must go.
Yeah. I mean, if you tie that in though with the Spartacus Network and the Odyssey Foundation,
yes,
Yeah, we're only using William Ramsey's name for
we
attention,
we noticed. Okay, we explained at the beginning of the show. I keep seeing this chat. I guess people are showing up the wrong time. No, he fucking literally, like, I messaged him, like, I sent him the link like an hour before, and then he was like, I can't make it. It's not on my calendar. That's all. That really all it is. Yeah, sorry. I mean, I seriously, I was joking. That was a joke we made earlier. That we were doing it just for attention. Like, it was, but no, he couldn't make it. It was, I guess, a misunderstanding or something. I think it's because we just had like a verbal thing. And I think he just forgot to put in his calendar. So I don't know. I noticed it like right before the show, so I haven't really had a chance to even respond to him. I'll probably just see if he can come on next week. We just haven't had a chance to change the title, so whatever. We get the nice little added benefit of the little cushion of whatever live viewers come expecting to see William Ramsey. Well, maybe we'll see him next week. Either way, I'm going on his show next week to talk about the Dutroux affair. So if anything, I think that almost makes it kind of sweeter if we can get him to come to next week. Because then we have William Ramsey on Tuesday, and then we have, I think, Tinfoil Hat on Wednesday, I think, next week. And then I think on Thursday, that I want to say Thursday, I'm going on William Ramsey's show to talk to
and then Friday, I'm going on William Ramsey's show.
Boom, perfect.
So that would
boom,
be
boom.
fucking perfect, honestly.
Yeah, be sick. Fucking quarterfecta or whatever, you know. So yeah, so PizzaGate. Okay, we're on Etsy. So was that the only thing you want to say about? It felt like there was something else you would talk about before. You want some angle you want to go off on.
Beforehand, I just wanted to. Beforehand, I really just was going to offer up some legitimate evidence that proves that clearly there's much more to the PizzaGate narrative than what was
sorry, real quick. William Ramsey's going on Jules' show on Saturday, so pop in.
Is he? Hell yeah.
Put the time in the chat, Jules. No, look, Jules, what time? Is it a live stream?
This Saturday?
We haven't decided on a time. He's checking to make sure that he's all good, but we haven't
live stream
Saturday. Yes.
So we thinking nighttime, evening? What are we roughly?
Afternoon. If it happens, it'll be the afternoon.
Okay.
So
Jules,
we'll keep your eyes peeled. All right. What's up,
Jules?
Yes.
Hey, brother.
Jules.
What's up, man?
Stay here and chat up Jose for a second while I go take a piss. But also,
we were just about to go on a PizzaGate tangent.
I know. Hey, I have something. I swear, I have something, and I'll explain. I'll explain Farmer L, and I'll explain certain aspects of the coded language when I get back. But I will. Honestly, I just felt as if, like, anytime there's any sort of like new revelation in regard to the PizzaGate narrative, I think we should definitely target and cover it and spotlight it, because I truly believe, especially not only the Laura Silsby connection to Haiti and clearly exploiting the crisis that occurred there to traffic as many Haitian children into these various networks of sadistic abuse. That alone should drive people to realize that PizzaGate was a reality, and to no longer question that. And in regard to, is Franklin scandal real? Absolutely. Go look at Dennis Hastert and his role as the Speaker of the House, longest tenured Speaker of the House. He's a legit sadistic pedophile, proven. And it's absurd that people are under the false impression or misconception that these sadistic networks of abuse don't exist. So I'll be right back. Though. I gotta
All right, go piss, dog. Hey, Jules, while I have you here, I was just thinking, I think this maybe we were kind of talking about earlier the Dutroux affair, and we were talking about, at one point we got a little bit on the tangent on the Abraxas occult.
Abraxas order.
Yeah, because I believe you've touched on that before, and I think so. You have a little bit of knowledge. I believe there's also a weird angle in the Dutroux affair where I think there was some castle they basically all fucked in. So there's like some So which, I mean, that wasn't like a, so far as the Dutroux Nihil part of it, I don't think that's a huge part. But at least when it comes to like you get into like the royalty side of things and the kind of parties those guys were having, I think that's where those people were fucking. Abraxas, tell me about it, because I was kind of weirded out by it. Like, and it is odd. It's Michelle Nihul's ex-wife was maybe I want to say she like handled the finances or something. There was I read some thread where there was like apparently they were exploiting like Nigerian immigrants or some shit. Like they were doing some wild shit.
Well, yeah, it's that. Is this the guy that you were talking about, the Francis de Smet guy? Is that the same one?
Perhaps. I don't know. There's so many names to keep track of. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the people in it. But go on.
An alias. Well, Abraxas is the Gnostic chicken snake god. Name
which the weird thing is this one's Abraxas and that's Abraxas. So they're like it's like almost like a swapping of the S and the X in there.
Yeah. I think it's just how you spell it, maybe.
I don't know.
But the 7 letters equal 365. Like if you add it up using the numerology, it's with 7 Greek letters, basically, because that's when the name was put out there. I don't know who he was. I don't know if there's another name for him, but yeah, it has like the head of a chicken, feet of a snake.
Yep, 2 snakes. It's weird. They like kind of twirl out, kind of like
Actually,
there's
if
legs.
you've seen Adult Swim, I don't know if you ever watched it back in the day. There was a show called Xavier Renegade Angel, and it's fucking like retarded, dude. But the main guy, this angel, he has like arms of a snake, or one arm of a snake, and like a chicken beak. So it's they were portraying Abraxas as
the chicken snake god, brother. Yeah.
Which fun fact, Abraxas is also in Marvel Comics. He's the counterpart to Galactus, in the sense that Galactus, his thing is like he goes around and devours planets. But apparently, I guess like there's one storyline where they kill a Galactus in one of their universes, and then when that happened, that essentially opens the door for Abraxas to enter, almost as if like something about Galactus is like the countervailing force preventing him from entering universes. And so once there's no Galactus, he's free to enter the universe, and he takes the realm of like, he's essentially like a universal level Galactus in that he destroys universes, whereas like Galactus destroys worlds. So, but once you destroy the Galactus in a universe, now you like Abraxas come in. So now you're like, oh, cool, we have this thing going around destroy worlds. Now your universe is fucked. So that's I don't know, it's something that was interesting that he's a character in narrative, and he's that, and the kind of the concept of what he is. He's almost like this extra level deity that like I don't know, that enters in, and I don't know. There's probably some Gnostic bullshit to be had there, but yeah.
Do a deep dive.
Either way, tell us. Do you know anything particularly about the Abraxas cult, Jules, or what we have you here?
Just that the main guy who was apparently getting children from Mark Dutroux, and taking them to this castle. His wife was the what was it? The Wiccan Grand Priestess Supreme of the Belgian Church of Satan. So you have more ties into these other satanic groups. It's really all just one group if you think about it, but they are worshiping different deities, and but it seems like they all are connected.
Jules, what do you think about the letter that was personally signed by Anubis from Abraxas? So it wasn't only Abraxas, it was also spelled Abraxas, which I think is just an alternative version of his name. But in reality, the ancient Egyptian god Anubis was the way that the personal letters were signed to the accomplice of Mark Dutroux when they were procuring children for blood ritual ceremonies within the context of the Abraxas, Abraxas
Institute
cult. Institute of Abraxas in Fort Cheese, Lamarche, or whatever, right?
Yeah, they have a website, I'm pretty sure.
100%, dude.
I think he signed his name as Anubis, which is kind of fucking cryptic, because it's like, when you die in the Egyptian mythos, Anubis walks you to the underworld. So it's like he's walking these children to their death. Yeah.
German level of it. That's fucking nuts, man.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Fucking pieces.
That's very interesting. Especially it was what was it? The self-styled Satanic Order of Abraxas, based in southern Belgium. That's what they called it. Right. And so but the letter was found in the house of Bernard Weinstein, right, who was the accomplice of Dutroux. Buried alive by Mark Dutroux, right, after he drugged him. And so he referred to the group and to the need to continue to procure presents in the form of human beings for Anubis, the high priestess of the order. The media were asked to withhold this information for many months, and then a raid on the group temple, an anonymous cottage, resulted in the seizure of hundreds of videotapes. Look, dude, Jose, does this not sound exactly like U.S. Customs agent Ramon J. Martinez and what he listed in being in the warehouse of the finders, right? And that other property that was nearby, where they had all these computers set up, where the peer-to-peer networks, private network, internationally, they were procuring children for like the Chinese embassy and shit. And so, yeah, the media were asked, of course, to withhold this. Then the raid on the group temple, they discovered these hundreds of videotapes, racks of computer disks, 2 human skulls, and jars of blood. All right, and again, it's like you have this what's it called?
And here's the link I was telling you about right here. Annie Booty, Michelle Nihul's ex-wife. Now, this is what I was trying to say earlier. Celestial Church of Christ is what it's also called, I guess. And like you can even see here, Abrasex Etle Celestion Church of Christ. Wow. So yeah, that's interesting. That like because I would be really interested to know, because isn't that like part of the Process Church was part of their belief system was tied into like duality and the idea of like believing in Jesus and also believing in Satan and stuff.
A lot of like a lot of duality, which is all just goes back to the Kabbalah, right?
Well,
a lot of Kabbalists.
Exactly, dude. I just you remember A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? As much as I'm not a huge fan of that movie, they make this ultimate point, right? The overall point of like really highlighting this number 42. And I looked it up.
Wait,
it's in the
wait.
Yeah.
Sorry. Keep talking. I have something for you on that.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Real quick, I did want to point out, I don't know if you noticed this, Austin, not just to get you off track. I don't know if you've gone down this route, but apparently this thread is, this guy's great. I've been reading a bunch of his threads, but in here they're talking about that the Abraxas Church essentially was they were basically exploiting Nigerian immigrants. Like I think they might even have been helping them try to get them over here, but then once they'd get over here, they'd also be like, hey, they would take collections from them to help normalize their situation, is what they called it. And then essentially they just took money from them. And then I guess in most cases there were claims that they never got their money, but these were poors. And then this is like the wife of Nihul. So it was like, I don't know, it was kind of this disparity of class where like nothing really happened. And it also, I think it's a worthwhile mentioning that like, also this woman was the wife of one of the largest human traffickers there is, and these are Nigerian immigrants.
Wow.
So just throwing it out there. And apparently there was also a huge prostitution with an issue with the Nigerian immigrants in that area. So it's kind of like, and I guess it's like there were districts where like it was a common complaint that it's a lot of these girls may not look like they're of age. So like I don't know. That was an interesting little connection that like this Abraxas thing seemed to be this almost like religious entity that probably was somehow using their religious maybe even there may have been using their legal distinction as a church or something probably to their advantage in one way, shape, or form. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. And then the Abraxas and Celestian Church of Christ, like I don't know, they just like manipulating like naive misunderstanding Nigerians and selling them with this like forward facing Celestian Church of Christ, so they don't know. I'm sure a lot of these Nigerians have seen, they don't know what the fuck this. They go, okay, maybe that comes off a little bit softer than the Brassic, Satanic, whatever the fuck, Church of Christ. Right. And the next thing you know, we're slinging your butthole to fucking, elites.
Oh my God.
What about 42? Because that's a Crowleyan number.
Right. No, it's exactly. And they claim that essentially it was within the belief of this Kabbalistic nature as far as in regard to it included, apparently, it appeared in all these various contexts, the number 42, including ancient Egyptian mythology. And apparently it has to do with the afterlife, right? Which is exactly what you were alluding to.
Yeah, the 42 laws of Mott.
Exactly.
And so 42, whenever Crowley talks about it, is the number of the dark mother, which is ultimately Ishtar. Inanna, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my
and he,
God, the rites of Ishtar, blood sacrifice, brother. Honestly, that's what
yeah,
it really
sex
ties
magic,
into
all that
inevitably,
stuff,
right?
dude. Yeah, for
Jesus.
sure.
You know, Bill Cooper used to say that in certain times of the year, the occult holidays, for example, the 13th of July, I think it is, the 13th, I can't remember now.
Keep talking.
The 13th day of the 13th month or something. No, that wasn't it. Shit, man. There's only 12 months. but I can't remember now what exactly, but it's like a 13 played into the the membership number, because clearly apparently it was like there were only 13 exclusive members who had like they were, you know, they were really allowed in like the private meetings within the covens and these various organizations and groups that were practicing these ritualistic belief systems and doctrines, and they all fell within the occult nature of really the philosophical doctrine of the process, which you were mentioning, the duality of Christ, Satan, Jehovah, where they would implement it all to ultimately become this divine. Really, it was a divine path they were convincing themselves of, right? That this had divine qualities within its pursuit in itself. So even if you were pursuing this within the realm or the context of a blood ritual sacrifice, then it was still a godly pursuit. And this was the sort of justification that they used within the context of the doctrine.
Joe Bell, you're correct. It was July 13th, the day Trump was shot. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's why I brought that up with BX when the Trump assassination happened, because that's an occult holiday that fell within the context of the Order of the Solar Temple, I believe, and the Neo-Templar Renaissance and these Neo-Templar organizations that are tied in and overlapping with the Rosicrucian Order and all of this. The Order of the Solar Temple is among them, and I believe that clearly the process of the process church has many different connections to a very similar ideological path that they've really constructed and implemented within their doctrine, and so anyway, yeah, I think that just the significance of the number 42 being this kind of like, the answer to the ultimate question. It was just like, it's occult in nature and in its own connotation, and inherently it's occult. It as far as just in its infancy, it was really kind of like the number 42. You look up the gematria aspect of it, right, and it becomes very very interesting, right? Because I was unaware that 42 apparently in gematria, it's a new creation, the answer to life's questions, in a reference to the Bible, right? So it's a biblical connotation as well. And in the Kabbalah, 42 is the number associated with God's creation of the universe. So you have, again, that's playing perfectly in line with this sort of answer to the ultimate question, which I was unaware of this connection until I watched this ridiculous movie. And I had forgotten a long time ago when I first watched it, but again, I was very unaware of the occult Kabbalistic connotations there directly associated to this number. And so apparently the number 42 appears in the Bible in multiple places, and including the number of generations from Abraham to Jesus Christ. And it's also associated with the Antichrist's rule over the world, which I found very interesting, especially considering the rebuilding of the Temple of Solomon and all of this different shit that falls within the Kabbalistic framework of like the approach and the mindset and the playbook of what they're attempting to achieve with this sort of all pervasive, we talk about full spectrum dominance, man, talk about new world order. People want to dismiss that and act as if that's just some sort of laughable term. Well,
yeah, fucking Elon's making satellites, like a crazy satellite system right now. I hadn't had a chance to read it, but I know Booty wrote a piece, and I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. I was thinking about maybe covering on the show one of these days. But yeah, I mean, just reading the overview of it, I'm like, oh yeah, I vaguely recall him doing stuff like that. And you're like, I mean, you think about the military contracts of these people, and like between Peter Thiel and Altman and Ellison, and then fucking Musk. It's like, I don't know. I mean, these guys are gonna they're all like involved in some pretty creepy shit. So like, I don't know. As I kind of gave like a little bit of a white pill on it, like I think these like even with like the AI wars and like with Altman's dealing with in like China and stuff, it's like I don't know. I think these people may not like it may not work out like they want, but it seems like some of these people do have sinister plans. So I think they may not. I think they may not take into account the human spirit aspect of things. But I think we're probably at a good time. This has been a fun episode. We really jumped all over the place. I think we're probably at a great time to kill it. So, Jules, you want to let people know where to find it? We'll get out of here, bud.
Yeah, man. Graypilled Pod on Twitter, guys. Graypilled _ podcast on Instagram. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, patreon.com/graypilledpodcast. Yeah, just stay tuned. I got a bunch of shows coming these next couple weeks. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Get the fuck out of here. Right. Austin, where can we find you at, bud?
Oh, man. Dude, first of all, I'm not going to go crazy on you, but I will say that I didn't realize that there was the successor organization before, this new kind of Mormon-connected best friends organization for the Process Church. I didn't realize that there was another successor organization, which I'm sure there are more than one. But it was called the Foundation Faith of the Millennium. And this came into it really kind of fell into my lap in regard to John Markham, that attorney he was one of the attorneys for Jeffrey McDonald during the 1970s, as far as the Jeffrey McDonald murders case is concerned at Fort Bragg. And it turns out that apparently Markham has these direct links to the Process Church, right? And he apparently became a federal prosecutor and in Boston, despite his ties to the Process Church of the Final Judgment and its successor organization, the Foundation Faith of the Millennium, which sounds so new agey to me, right? And so again, it like falls
almost
into
like
that
Celestial
framework.
Church of Christ, you know?
That's what I was fucking bringing it up for, because that's what it reminded me of. Is exactly that. It sounded very similar. So again, pattern recognition, man. Like, it'll never fail us, right? It feels like a superpower.
Yeah. It's like a Fed Mad Libs at time. Like, hey, okay, we need a cult, so let's make it kind of, I don't know, UFOs are the thing right now, so let's connect it into UFO, and then we can kind of tie it into our, like, we can tie in some UFO angles, and if we got it, we can bring in our fucking Men in Black, division. They can help us out with this, like, I don't know, it's just kind of natural, like, just whatever, just squeeze her in there it is. But but let's, where can people find you at whenever, 3 weeks from now, whenever you drop your 12-hour documentary?
It's coming out,
on
man.
An obscure death from decades ago.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is some shit nobody even talks about anymore. And I'm spending all my fucking time focusing on
it. The sort of shit that's gonna be evergreen content and to probably do fucking numbers. But yeah,
appreciate you, brother. But yeah, man, you guys just by the way, Jose, we got to talk about fucking Marion Petty's military service record, and again get back into the investigative leads memo that I've intended to kind of discuss with you for a fucking minute.
Well, we got a week of morning dumps between now and in between me and you go on Tinfoil Hat. So these would be good ideas for us to kick around to, since those are all very much tie into our theme for that episode.
Absolutely, especially with the Fed component with Athena Veronis and the finders and everything. But yeah. I'm with you, brother. So fucking follow me at the Underclass Podcast. I promise you guys, I know I've been kind of over-promising lately, but it's only because I had no real understanding of how much I was actually saddling myself with. So it will be out soon, but again, it's going to be a very long one. So hopefully you can deal with the excruciating detail involved with certain court documents that provide, the really the most crucial aspects of the crime scene and all of this, how the feds effectively manufactured evidence against the defendant, and it's a typical cover up, right? It shares all the hallmarks. It plays into that pattern recognition we speak of so often, and again, it falls perfectly in line with Gladio. So here we go again, right? But but yeah, beyond that, nothing but love for everybody, man. Check out my first premium content of all time, my Patreon episode that I just recently dropped, which apparently
you need to give that to me for free.
I would. No, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to
Yeah, I
you.
wanna check it out.
Honestly, I will.
But yeah, go give Austin money, and you can see him with Sam Tripoli and Brad Brinkley.
Brad Brinkley, man. Like I was very, very, very appreciative and ultimately grateful for the opportunity in general. But the fact that Sam wanted to like do some premium content together, man, every time I will accept that opportunity. So go check that out. We had a pretty worthwhile conversation. I think it was a lot of fun. I didn't get the memo to wear a tank top. Apparently, Jose, you would have been perfectly at home within the context of that. But yeah, I appreciate everybody. Go check out my content, and I'll have that new episode in the next couple of days I would say 24 hours at most. Yeah, but I don't want to
most
overpromise,
3 weeks.
So.
All right, guys. If you guys want to support what I'm doing, you can do that over at patreon.com/nowayjose2020. The lowest level is where you can get the early access to the episodes. I'm gonna try and knock out 2 this week because I didn't do one before. But with that, if you're a patron, you're gonna get 2. You're gonna have extra. So now, if anything, you guys are getting more. I'm gonna start having probably keep 2 in the queue as opposed to 1. So there should be 2 episodes for you guys. Also, if you want to be a talking head on Already Dead, this Tonight Show, kind of like me, Austin, and Jules were, you can pop in on the video call portion. All you gotta do is support me or Austin's Patreon. We drop those links every week, unless I fuck up. I fucked up once. Sorry. Also, that's when you get an ad-free RSS feed there. It's patreon.com/nowayjose2020. That's the lowest level is $2. The highest level is my sponsors. I read them off every episode. And my co-host in Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad. Also at Brigadies at ZOVRACK at _Infield Zeal. Tim Tuttle at Jolly on Klebold. Will Bell's Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Blueberry. Ah, God, I fucked that one up. Will Bell's my tongue is all fucked. He has a great blueberry wine. Big fan of the show, Torrin May, then at INWARD Lover. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at Tower Gang Jose. If you are watching this on Rumble or YouTube, whether that be me or Austin's or both, go leave a like on there. And then if you're listening to this, please scroll up to the top wherever you got to go do it. And then go leave a 5-star review. Helps us out a lot. Go do it for both of us. I mean, helps us out big time in the algos. And with that, guys, we're out of here. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. Show up. I should be there tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. I don't know if Austin will be there, but he'll probably be working his episode. But I'll be here. Pop in for the live stream tomorrow morning. We're out of here. Bye-bye.